Good morning. Happy Saturday. So I was watching my man Grant yesterday talking about distressed properties and distressed assets in general and how you acquire them and why this is so great. And he was really encouraging people. He was going back to the basics and encouraging people to get back in to real estate. If you hadn't done it, do one house, do a duplex. He was kind of doing the simple stuff. And he also then went through, since he's done Undercover Billionaire, and showed how he actually is a billionaire, which he really didn't know when he decided to do the show. He hadn't really calculated what his net worth was. And then he said something that we hear all too often, so it's worth repeating. He's a kid from a small town in Louisiana whose dad died when he was young, and mom was middle class, and he's not educated. He did go to college. I'm not sure he graduated, but he said, I never, ever, ever saw myself at this level. And one of the things that significantly successful people will say, looking back, is we don't set our goals high enough. We don't set our sights high enough. And I know I've said this before on these morning talks, but it bears repeating because we all need to remember it, including me. And that's not to say that you want to end up being a billionaire. You don't. That's not always part of everybody's plan. But whatever it is you do want to be, it's okay to sit there and say, I want to be the best at this. I want to have extraordinary outcomes. I mean, Richard Branson, shoot for the biggest outcomes, because when you do that, not only are your standards going to be different, but your plan's going to be different. Grant was the guy that came up with the 10X rule, and he came up with that because he said, I couldn't get ahead of the game until I decided to do something much more significant, and then all of a sudden I was able to get ahead of the game, because rather than trying to get a little bit more than what I needed in order to get by, I decided to get a lot more, and suddenly my plan changed, suddenly my actions changed, and suddenly my outcomes changed. So always remember, go for a lot bigger than what you think. That old adage, shoot for the moon and you'll reach for the stars. It's true, because if you keep listening to these people, they all keep saying the same thing, that you should always aim for bigger. And the ones that do hit it, that was intentional. As you've heard me say, Michael Jordan set out to be the best. Tiger Woods set out to be the best. If you hear interviews from people in the entertainment industry, that's a great one to look at. They set out to be that big. Bon Jovi's dad ran a recording studio, and when he was a kid, he was around musicians. And so that created a reality for him. They were regular people and who were doing these huge things. And he was like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And as a kid, he started writing songs and he started doing stuff. And he even had musicians come in and say, hey, how's your music coming? And, obviously he ended up being a huge musician. The people that make it in the entertainment industry out in Hollywood, they go out with that intention. Arnold Schwarzenegger showed up in the United States and said, I'm going to be huge. The Rock went out to Hollywood and said, I want to be the biggest actor in Hollywood. And they were like, well, how are you going to do that? I don't know, but we're gonna, and he was. And he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Most of the people that end up on the red carpet getting an Academy Award set out an intention to actually do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be this big. And then they ended up being that big. So whatever it is that you're looking at, whatever goals you're looking at as you're doing the first of the year, if you're doing the Tony Robbins Challenge, which I hope you are, it's great content and it's great stuff. Set those sights significantly high. Your actions will be different. Your plan will be different. And more often than not, your results are going to be significantly different. And remember, this then creates momentum, right? Once you create one result, then there's another result, and each time it creates a new expectation. So as you move forward, don't just try to achieve something. Try to achieve everything in the area that you're looking at, whatever it is, and then see what happens. everybody that does get success that we study, success at the level that we pay attention to, they all set out to do that. And with Grant, what he says is, I wasted tons of time because I didn't really intend to get big until I got to a certain age. And, Think and Grow Rich, the book Think and Grow Rich talks about this, how a lot of really successful people don't really get momentum until they're in their 50s. And this was even back when that book was written in the early 1900s. And some of that is, I think, you get to around my age and you think, if I'm going to do this, I better get going. Whereas when you're younger, you don't really have that same urgency. So create the urgency now if you don't already have it. Don't wait. Don't look back and say, oh my God, I could have done this so much sooner in life. Do it now. And then that way you can look back and say, wow, I don't have any regrets. You want to be that guy at the end of the day that looks back in the rocking chair and says, I don't have any regrets. I did it all. I did everything I wanted to do. I did everything I came here to do. I told the people that I loved what I wanted to tell them. I spent the time with the people that I wanted to spend. I traveled to the places that I wanted to see. I did it all. You want to be that person at the end of this road. So start with intention. Don't hope that all that stuff happens. Make it so all that stuff happens. Have a great Saturday, everybody. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other. Thanks for watching.